I like boxing. I like anime. I like sick ass weapons. Put them all together, and you get Arcane.
Here's a model I found online. I definitely would not be able to model this myself. I just kind of modified it a little bit here and there to fit the size and the dimensions that I wanted. So first things first, let's print this baby out. I printed this out on my 3D printer with PLA plastic, and boy howdy, it took a long time. I think there was a total of like 30 something parts, and they each took about 8 hours to print out. So it was going nonstop. And let me tell you, those printers are loud as shit. So I did not get any sleep. I did not get any rest. This took probably, I don't know, like 2 weeks of just straight printing. It was terrible. It was miserable. Excuse me. Alright, while I'm gluing all this together, let's take a moment to talk about Arcane. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Amazing show. In fact, it's hard for me to even say why it's so amazing. It just is. It just is. But it's also an engineer's wet dream. Let's talk about the main man, Jace himself. Jace here he grew up poor or whatever, but then he saw some wizard do like some magic shit in front of him, and he recreated it using like science and stuff. Like, that is the sickest thing ever. He also pulls a baddie, which is awesome. We love to see that. He could be gay though, so questionable there. Questionable for sure. Other than that, there's so many like cool sci-fi things. Like, there's so many tools and objects and weapons that are like really neat and have cool designs. Like Echo's watch, his like hoverboard. Honestly, everything Echo is just top tier. Also, like the gauntlets that I'm making today. And Bessa's little chain whip like blade things that we saw for a little bit at the end. I was actually really disappointed that those went away because they were really cool for like the 15 seconds they were on screen. Stuff like that, you know. I mean, maybe one day I'll be making some more of it. We'll see. This here is the 3D printed part that I made. As you can see, the charges will go in right here, and then tubes run in here and then up and out. And the pressure will come out right here and right here. So hopefully it'll launch whatever we have inside these tubes. Okay, so the launcher is, I did some math on it, and there's a slight chance that it could explode. So to make sure I don't die, I've built this nifty little testing rig that has a little metal wall to make sure I don't blow up. So the metal box wasn't working, so I came up with the next best thing. Putting our striker on a stick. That should not have happened. I don't know if y'all have ever tried drilling into this like stainless steel type plating, especially drilling with really bad drill bits. Let me tell you, it fucking sucks. I was here for probably, like, I've had this sped up, but I was probably here for, I don't know, 40 minutes just drilling, maybe an hour. And that's just not worth it. To drill 2 fucking holes? It was awful. And I mean, in a later school project, I had to do something similar, and with actual drill bits, and it went right through. So get yourself some good drill bits. I think that's the moral of the story. Is what that is get some good drill bits. But I only got 2 holes drilled out of the 4 that I wanted to drill, which would later become a problem. But it worked temporarily, so I guess it's fine. Alright, here's a great update spot. Here we have our top third of the gauntlet done and attached to our metal protective area. Now it looks more like an oversized, or not an oversized, like a small shield. Looks pretty damn cool in my opinion, but it is way bigger than I expected. Like punching, like I don't know how I'm gonna, it's gonna be very, very interesting. It's also getting up there in weight, definitely a little heavy, and it's only gonna get heavier. So now we are gonna put the second third in here, and then the bottom will cover up this piece right here. Oh, fuck. This thing's heavy. Alright, today we are going to be testing out the launcher again with a few new additions. First and foremost, we're going to be adding this topper on top right about here. That way when we slide one of our charges in the previous test when we put these guys in and they blew up, inside here they expanded and we couldn't pull them out. We had to drill them out, as you can tell from all these marks on the top here. So this guy should be there to be able to prevent that expanding from happening, and then we can pull them out more effectively. Secondly, we have this guy. This is going to be our plunger, I guess you could say. But this will be what pops out when the charges go off. The gases will come up inside these tubes and pop the thing out. Furthermore, it has these screws inside, and right here there's two little prongs. So those will be our firing pins for the charges. In this next test that we do, we will be ideally shooting off 2 charges at a time, whereas in the previous test we only shot off 1. So there's definitely more of a danger factor with this for multiple reasons. One being this guy is all made of PLA plastic, which isn't exactly strong, and 2, there's just double the pressure in here, and it could react in ways that we may are not prepared for. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, so here's our setup that we have. We're going to use this long board to basically lift up and strike the very top of this guy, which will then strike into our charges. Alright, so as we can see here, the firing pins actually did activate, or they did puncture, but the charges didn't activate. So I'm thinking that the firing pins themselves might need to be shaved down to be blunt, and then the blunt, it won't puncture, it'll charge instead of puncturing. So yeah. Here's the aftermath of some of these pieces. This guy is stuck right now. We only did 1 shell there. We lost both of these, so there was another one on this side, and then this piece came off from right here. And this guy's pretty, ooh, that guy's hot. This guy's pretty stuck in there. Our launcher piece has lost one of its tubes, and it is now almost entirely blackened from the materials inside, but it worked pretty well. And then our metal guy worked great, except we now have a piece stuck in there. that we're gonna have to fish out and reprint. So that's super fun. So that was an overall decent test, but I still have a lot of questions. First and foremost, that was obviously only a single shell, so 2 shells could really just mess the whole thing up. And most importantly, from the video, it was very hard to tell whether the launcher actually like made any reaction. The whole point of this is to create an extra when you hit, so you know, the object, and I just couldn't tell from the wood if that happened. But so we're gonna reprint the launcher and the spacer and see what we can do there. Maybe beef up the launcher a little bit so the cylinder doesn't pop off. But other than that, we're just gonna have to test and see if we can get a better reaction.
What's up, guys? Voiceover me back. I don't know why I didn't say it in these videos, but here I am now. I'm just showing some gaps in the 3D prints that we're gonna have to fill with some wood putty, as seen.
Alright, so here's our gap fill on some of those spots. All we have to do now is just sand it up, and then it'll be ready for painting.
The next minute-ish is just me priming and painting the gauntlet, and it's a little boring, but I was in such a zen that I felt like I had to take this B-reel shots. So we're going to put you in an also zen state. I'm going to cue some nice calming music. Ready? Home. Home. We are meditating. Home. Should I start ASMR? You are thinking of a deep, dark lake in the middle of the water. That didn't make sense. Home. Peace and quiet. Home. This is the end of the meditation. Home. Now moving on to testing. Home.
So here's the results of that last test. As you can see, the 2 bolts that we're holding on this entire gauntlet have completely torn out of their 3D printed pieces. So now this thing is kind of just, it's not really showing it, but it's like, it's all flimsy in there and not secure. So that's definitely a problem. How do we fix this? I really don't know. Till I get to this part, we have to take apart the entire 3D printed area, but it's all, it is all super glued together. So I don't really know how this is gonna be done. So yeah, check back with you in a minute. Okay, here's the solution we came up with. We got these tabs right here. There's some in the back there that's holding it from going backwards, and then these top ones up here and right there. So hopefully this will give it a bit more rigidity, and when I compress and initiate the sweet spot, then it won't break apart. So see how it goes. All right, sweet spot test take 1. Okay, so those 6 or 7 hits did not ignite them, and seemingly barely made a scratch. So I'm going to give it another go with a bit more force, and we'll see how that turns out. All right, take two. So the screws came out of their holding, and the shells are still not fired. So this is yep, gonna need to be redone. Take three. Okay. Here it is, the gauntlet. All ready to go hit some things. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. We got a couple things lined up. We're gonna go see if we can break them. All right, let's talk. Those last clips you saw was about 6 months ago. That was last summer. It is winter now. I had to go back to school, and I didn't want to fucking lug this thing around, so I just didn't. When I came back about a month ago, I tried working on it, but every single time I tested, this guy would not launch. Like, no matter what I did, I could not get a repeat of what happened earlier. So, I'm in a tough spot. I really want to move on from this project. I have other projects in mind that I want to work on, but I also want to, hit some fucking things. So I've decided that I'm just gonna move on, and just cut this video right here. If more people are interested, maybe down the line in the future, I'll make like a short on how this guy actually, like, getting this guy actually functioning. But until then, it's just gonna be a shelved project. So that's how it is. Thank you for watching up until this point.